Today we'll be getting into Walt Disney World's resort split stays, what they are, how they work, and why it might make sense for you and your travel party to consider for your next trip. Hello and welcome to the Let's Go to Disney podcast. I'm Oliver.
And I'm Lucy.
Today is Sunday, March 9th, and you're listening to episode 78, everything you need to know about split stays. Before we get into today's main topic, here's what's going on in the parks right now. It's been a big news week this week, and we've got a lot to cover, so here goes. Epcot's Flower and Garden Festival kicked off on Wednesday, March 5th. The festival will run until June 2nd, so if you've got a trip lining up with these dates, make sure to take advantage of some of the festival offerings while you're there. We're there May 10th to 17th.
Yes, we are.
And we will be taking advantage of some of the offerings, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
At the SXSW, that's hard to say, conference this weekend, Disney Parks shared a closer look at some of the new attractions coming to the parks in the coming years. We finally got some further details on the new suspended coaster coming to the new Monsters, Inc. land at Hollywood Studios. Disney Parks shared a concept video showing the load area for the attraction, and it looks really, really cool. So it shows seats that are essentially side by side facing the load area. Guests will then sit and be secured in like their seats, and then they'll be lifted, and then the ride vehicles will rotate to face like forward and into the attraction. I'm not doing it justice by describing it, but Disney Parks shared it on their socials, and you can actually see a clip of it on the Disney Parks blog website as well. So we definitely recommend checking that out. It looks
it's
super
going to be
cool.
Amazing. This is the ride I have been waiting for.
Yeah, and like they don't show you, there's no clip of like what the ride is going to look like, but the load area itself, it rotates on the tracks, and it looks like it's next level.
It's going to be
cool.
epic.
Yeah. For the new Cars area, Imagineers are hard at work designing a new ride vehicle that will become the thrilling off-road rally ride coming to Magic Kingdom. So Disney Parks shared a video saying Imagineers went off-roading in Sedona, Arizona, and then built an off-road track like physically in Florida, recreating their favorite off-road elements before they actually start 3D modeling for the attraction itself. We can't wait to see and hear more on that. They also shared a reel of the Mandalorian and Grogu, along with an announcement that Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run will get a Mandalorian and Grogu update on May 22nd of 2026. They shared some concept art photos of what we can expect to see, so make sure to check that out on the Disney Parks blog website if you're curious. And still in Galaxy's Edge, you've probably seen these BDX droids around Disneyland, or at least on social media, and soon they'll make appearances at Walt Disney World, Tokyo Disneyland, and Disneyland Paris. So if you're not sure what these are, they're essentially like small free-roaming droids that interact with their environment. We've never seen these in person, so we're actually really excited to see these coming to the East Coast. And actually, I have heard that they've been seen on the Disney Wish, and we are
cool.
on the Wish this coming November.
There you
so
go.
Hopefully we get to see them then.
Yes, hopefully.
They also shared more details on the ride vehicles for the Stark Flight Lab, and that's going to be over at California Adventure over on the West Coast. And folks, if you're going to check out any of the clips we're mentioning, go check out this one. Okay, so they went into detail here showcasing the mechanical workings of the ride system. The ride vehicle will be like on a giant robotic arm, and it's going to turn you and flip you every which way. Okay, you're going to be harnessed in from the top, kind of like picture if you've been to Universal Orlando, the Forbidden Journey attraction over at Islands of Adventure at Universal Orlando. Okay?
In the castle.
Yeah, exactly. So you're essentially like strapped from the top. Again, I'm not doing it justice by just describing it, but it looks amazing. Like lots of really, really cool news coming out of SXSW. I never even actually heard of this conference, but
no, and I saw a picture of it too, and I think I saw Robert Downey Jr. was there.
Yeah, he was there. Yeah, absolutely.
I can't even remember who the other celebrity was I saw that's big in the Marvel world.
Jon Favreau was there.
Jon Favreau, that's who I was thinking of. Yeah, so some big names.
Yep.
So then over on the West Coast, Disneyland's 70th anniversary officially kicks off on May 16th and will run into the summer of 2026. So that's over a year that they're going to run this.
It's like the 50th over at Walt Disney World, right? It was like 18 months or whatever
Absolutely. So this is giving guests a huge window of time to take part in the festivities. Disney had previously announced some of the offerings that we can expect, but on Thursday, they shared even more details. There will be an all-new World of Color show named World of Color Happiness. The show will be hosted by Joy and the other emotions from Inside Out and feature moments from Turning Red, The Incredibles, Encanto, and Tangled, among many more. The Paint the Night parade is returning as well. Disney said, quote, Mickey Mouse used his vivid imagination to harness the power of Tinkerbell's pixie dust and paint the night in Disney Dreams. The parade will feature characters from films such as Monsters, Inc., Cars, Toy Story, The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and many more. Wondrous Journeys is also returning to Disneyland Park. The show features music, projections, and storytelling from Hercules, The Princess and the Frog, Peter Pan, Frozen, Big Hero 6, Moana, Encanto, among many others. Better Together, a Pixar Pals celebration, will also make its return to California Adventure. This daytime parade is filled with great music and floats from the films like Luca, Turning Red, Up, and many more. Disneyland Park will also receive the Tapestry of Happiness, where the facade of It's a Small World will feature lights, music, and projected effects. Disney says the show will, quote, create an animated mosaic of Disneyland attractions, moments, and memories brought to life in this unique style, inspired by the work of legendary Disney artist Mary Blair. Very famous Mary Blair. Everybody knows Mary Blair.
Of course, especially with It's a Small World.
Absolutely. Yep. Disneyland will also receive an all-new cavalcade named the Celebrate Happy Cavalcade. Disney characters will don their 70th anniversary attire and encourage guests to sing and dance along with them. The parks will be decked out in the 70th anniversary colors. Your favorite Disney characters will get their 70th anniversary attire. And of course, there's going to be tons of snacks and merch to go along with the theming of the celebration as well. If you were thinking of making a trip to Disneyland in the near future, now is definitely a good time to go and get in on all those celebrations.
Yeah, 100%. And we've been discussing our travel plans over the next year or so, and we're thinking that next spring, so spring 2026, while the celebration's still on, we're going to head to California.
Yeah, the kids have never been there, so I think that would be a perfect way to see it and be really involved in the celebrations.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. All right, so that was a lot, and there's a lot to look forward to this year and in the coming years. So for us, there was a couple of delays with the basement finishing. We've been talking about this for the last several weeks.
We have, yeah.
And it was supposed to be finished Friday, like this past Friday, and it basically is finished, right?
Yeah.
There's just a couple of little last-minute touch-ups and fixes to polish, and that should be done tomorrow, which is Monday. The plan is this week, we're going to slowly start to move some things back downstairs, and next weekend, we'll move down the big furniture pieces like couches, TVs, shelves, and similar items. We're going to be setting up the new desk down there as well. And by next weekend, we should be coming at you from the new studio. And when I say should, like one way or another, I'm moving the desk down there.
Yeah,
and 100% we're doing it next weekend.
I think we're not even considering that room a guest room right away. It's let's make this a studio space first. And then we'll make it the guest room later.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to set up the desks.
How you want them.
Yeah, our mics, all our setup, like that we have it set up here.
The great thing about that room is we have a Murphy bed. So for the odd time, we do have a guest. Oliver's sister likes to come and visit us once or twice a year. So for the odd time we have our guest, we just like that we have the Murphy bed that just goes up against the wall and it can actually be used as a studio space versus having a full bed on the ground at all time and then kind of limited in your space. Yeah,
no, and like you alluded to, like we're not in a rush to do that because
your sister's not coming till the summer.
Exactly. She's not set to come for until the summer. So we're going to get the studio all set up exactly how we want it. And then the Murphy bed can come in a little later sometime before she visits. Yeah.
Exactly. So like I said, we were really, really excited for this new space. We cannot wait for everything to just be set up down there and to start going. I'm already picturing where I'm going to put my Christmas tree. That's a big deal for me. Yeah. And I'm really excited about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
So Tuesday is also our 60-day dining window for our May trip. So we'll be doing that bright and early on Tuesday morning. As those of you on the East Coast are well aware, you sprung forward this week. And so that's going to actually be 4 a.m. our time. Here in Saskatchewan, where we live, we do not change time, which we absolutely love. Yeah. But for moments like this, it's quite early for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Not a big deal. We've done it before, but it would have been nice to just had this done a week sooner so that we didn't have to wake up at 4 a.m.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, we'll figure it out.
No, exactly. And we've got our attack plan all ready to go. Probably the hardest reservation we're going for is Topolino's breakfast, but that's a little later in our week, so we should be good to go to get everything we want.
Although our daughter threw us a curveball. Our kids don't actually know they're going yet, and she just told us, "Oh, I love Cinderella Royal Table. Yeah. It's my favorite place," and we weren't planning on making a reservation there. And then she said, "Space 220 is my second favorite place." We also weren't planning on making a reservation there.
And it's so funny because Lucy mentioned it yesterday. We were just chatting, and she's like, we've spoiled our kids because they associate Walt Disney World with Cinderella's Royal Table, Space 220, Storybook
dining, and expensive
100%
dining.
Because we've gone.
They're not quick service kids.
No, exactly. So now they're like, we want to go there. We want to go there. Like,
So we've decided we have to actually come up with a game plan today. That is our goal is today. Yeah. The kids are at my parents' house for a sleepover because they don't have school tomorrow. So we actually have the evening to ourselves where we'll have to commit.
Yeah, exactly. Commit, maybe swap some things around from our existing plan. But anyway. All right. With that said, let's get into today's main topic, which is split stays at Walt Disney World's resort hotels. So what is a split stay and why should you consider it? Well, split stays are exactly what they sound like. So staying at 2 or more resort hotels during your vacation. So why might you want to consider switching hotels mid-trip? Well, it's going to allow you to explore and experience 2 or more Disney resort hotels during a single trip. And generally speaking, the hotels have great theming. So that is a perk in and of itself, in our opinion. It can put you closer to the parks that you're visiting during specific sections of your vacation. So for example, say you're staying at a Magic Kingdom area resort for your Magic Kingdom day, and then an Epcot area resort for your Epcot and Hollywood Studios days. It can help you save money. So you could split your time between like a value resort like Art of Animation and finish your trip off with a couple of nights at a deluxe resort where you can enjoy things like proximity to the parks and extended evening hours.
Absolutely. We've actually done several split stays over many trips. We've done split stays between value resorts to moderate resorts, non-Disney resorts to Disney resorts, and we can definitely see both sides of it. A couple of things that we would recommend right off the hop, though, if you're doing a non-Disney resort and a Disney resort in the same trip, put your Disney resort on the back end of that. Reason being is that you're more likely going to prefer the Disney resort. Case in point, I think it was 2022.
Yep.
It was our first trip back after the pandemic closures, and we did a split stay. So we stayed at Coronado Springs for the first half of the trip, fell in love with Coronado Springs, and then we went over to the Swan Reserve, which was a really new place at the time.
It was, yeah.
The Swan is really nice in terms of location because of the proximity to the boardwalk and by extension to the International Gateway entrance to Epcot and the Skyliner station there. But the hotel itself just paled in comparison for us when compared to a Disney resort. We both felt it that trip. Hey, we wish we would have done Coronado. And we fell in love with Coronado Springs, which didn't help either.
No, exactly.
The Swan Reserve didn't stand a chance against Coronado for us.
And like, we didn't know any better, right?
No, we
should have done Swan Reserve and then Coronado, but yeah, live and learn.
That's okay. We learned.
And this also applies to Universal. So on that trip, we actually went from Coronado Springs to Swan Reserve, and we finished up the trip at Universal Orlando, and we stayed at the Lowe's Royal Pacific over there. Now, don't get us wrong, okay? The Swan Reserve and Royal Pacific are fine hotels, okay? Both offer great perks and proximity to the parks. Swan Reserve, like Lucy said, it's super close to Epcot, and it's, by extension, the International Gateway entrance and the Skyliner station, right? And then Royal Pacific is really close to Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Florida. But in our opinion, they are a bit of a letdown after staying in a Disney resort. So long story short, there's a lot of reasons to consider a split stay, and we'll expand on that today.
So first off, let's cover some of the pros. For one, and the most obvious, is that you'll get to experience more than one resort in one trip. If you love the Disney resorts like we do, it's definitely the best way to experience more of what the resorts have to offer in one go. It's one thing to visit the resorts and walk around the grounds, maybe stop for a bite to eat at one of their restaurants, but you definitely get to gain a better understanding of what each resort has to offer when you've actually stayed there. For example, you could start your vacation off staying at Art of Animation for the theming, the big blue pool, and the quick Skyliner access, and you close out your trip at Beach Club for the best pool area of all the Walt Disney World properties at Stormalong Bay, the phenomenal dining options around the boardwalk, and then, of course, the quick access to Epcot. Side note, just like we suggest putting your Disney resort last, we also suggest always keeping your higher tier resort at the end of your trip, because as great as the value resorts are, if you are coming from a deluxe to a value resort, you're definitely going to feel that. Just that's something to keep in mind there for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a deluxe resort. You're definitely going to feel that versus the value.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. So even on my most recent solo trip, right, coming from Pop Century, which is a value resort, to Port Orleans Riverside, which is a moderate, it was a noticeable difference. And it would have definitely been harder to do the other way around, right? Like I did appreciate the room was a little bit nicer at Port Orleans Riverside.
Absolutely.
The resort's a little bit nicer.
Because you're paying more.
Exactly. So second pro, and we touched on this a little earlier, but you could experience higher tier accommodations without paying those high prices for your entire vacation. So it's no secret that the value resorts are the least expensive, moderates are a little more expensive, and the deluxe are really expensive. And this is like Disney scale, right? So even the values are kind of expensive, but you get where you see where I'm going with it. But if you want a taste of deluxe or moderate accommodations, you could do a few nights at a value resort or a moderate resort and then step it up to moderate or deluxe for a couple of nights. So for example, you could stay at Caribbean Beach for the bulk of your vacation, then move to Grand Floridian near Magic Kingdom for a couple of nights. That way you're only paying deluxe prices for a portion of your stay and not the whole thing.
So a third pro, you can use split stays to be physically closer to the parks you're visiting during your trip. The Magic Kingdom area resorts on the monorail loop have super quick and easy access to Magic Kingdom and the TTC, which is a quick monorail ride over to Epcot. The Epcot area resorts are just steps away from the International Gateway entrance to Epcot and to the Skyliner station that will take you to Hollywood Studios. And Animal Kingdom Lodge is the closest to the Animal Kingdom Park. though you still have to actually take a bus to get to Animal Kingdom. It's not walkable. There's no other form of transportation to Animal Kingdom from any resort.
Yeah, exactly.
So what you could do is stay at an Epcot area resort like Beach Club or a Skyliner resort like Caribbean Beach. Do your Epcot and Hollywood Studio days from these resorts, then move on over to a Magic Kingdom area resort for your Magic Kingdom Day and Animal Kingdom Day, since you'll have to take a bus to Animal Kingdom no matter where you stay. We don't mind the buses at all, but some people actually have quite an aversion to them. Wherever you land on that, staying at different resorts will give you different transportation options to the different parks. So that can definitely play into your split stay strategy as well. If you're staying at a deluxe resort, you can line up your deluxe resort nights with the extended evening hours and really get more bang for your buck this way.
Yeah, exactly. It's usually Mondays and Wednesdays.
Yes.
And it's usually only Magic Kingdom and Epcot. Sometimes, like different times of year, Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom will also get them. But generally speaking, it's Mondays and Wednesdays at Epcot and Magic Kingdom.
That's right.
And lastly, and we kind of touched on this earlier, but it allows you to experience the different dining options and other amenities that the resorts have to offer in a more significant way, right? So each resort is pretty unique and the pool areas will be different. The theming is specific to each resort. The rooms will have different looks and layouts. There will be different dining options that you may want to experience as well. And it's no secret that some of the best dining experiences on property are at the resorts. You have hugely popular options, right? So think Ohana at the Polynesian, Storybook Dining at Artist Point, which is at Wilderness Lodge, 1900 Park Fair at the Grand Floridian, Sanaa and Boma at Animal Kingdom Lodge, Beaches and Cream at Beach Club, just to name a few, right? There's so many good restaurants at the resorts. Staying at a different resort will also allow you to experience what it has to offer organically, right? So you won't have to travel to the resort to experience dining and other amenities since you're already staying there, right? So for example, you could stay at Port Orleans French Quarter for the quiet vibes, right? And it has like intimate feels because it's such a small resort, and enjoy some beignets while you're at it. And then move to a Savannah View room at Animal Kingdom Lodge, enjoy the wonderful views, enjoy the bread service at Sanaa, and the zebra domes over at Damara.
Absolutely. All right, now there are some cons to doing a split stay, so let's unpack that as well. And no pun intended, because the biggest con, in our opinion, is the packing and unpacking. So depending on how you set up your hotel room when you check in, it can definitely be a major pain to have to repack just to unpack again mid-trip. We know some people like to unpack completely and then use the drawers and the closets in the hotel room to lay out their clothes. That's totally fair and it totally makes sense. And then there's other stuff too, like your toiletries, your electronics, all your chargers, your shoes, sandals, swim gear, and everything else you brought with you. Then when you pack up, you might be mixing worn clothes with clean clothes, and the whole thing is definitely cumbersome. Having said that, there are always ways to pack that could make this process a little bit easier if you know you're going to be doing a split stay. You can use packing cubes to pack for single days or a series of days, like half of your trip on one side of your suitcase and the second on the other half of your suitcase. This will be easier for some folks more than others, depending on how much space you leave yourself or how meticulous of a suitcase packer you are. We always do carry on. We really have to be strategic on how much we pack and what we pack.
Yeah, agreed 100%. So I will usually pack mine in the kids' suitcases and Lucy will pack hers. And we usually have like very little extra room to spare. So your mileage may vary there.
You've become an expert roller.
Yeah. Yeah. Roll everything super tight and there's no,
there's no room for anything else. Yeah. So long story short, there's something to be said for setting up at a base resort and not moving for the duration of your trip. And we totally get that.
Yeah, exactly. And second con, there can be some lost time in the transfer from one resort to another. Now, there are ways to really cut down on this, and it can be pretty straightforward. So packing the night before and laying out your clothes for the next day will probably be your best bet, unless you take a rest day during your transfer day. But don't feel like you need to do that. So one thing that just came into effect in 2025 is you get access to whatever Disney park is open at the time of your visit on your check-in day. And that's each check-in day, right? So if you're doing a split stay, if you drop your bags off with Bell Services in the morning, you could head to Blizzard Beach or Typhoon Lagoon, whichever one is open, and then check into your second resort at the end of the day. Where you're going to lose time is if you take your bags, take a rideshare to the next resort, wait around for your room to be ready, right? You can see where I'm going with this. It can quickly be like a lot of lost time, right? So really just planning your day around your transfer will make it much smoother. You could leave your bags with Bell Services, have them transferred to your next resort, head into the parks like any other day, scoop your bags at your next resort on your way back in, and that's it. It can be that easy.
The third con is booking complexity. If you're using a knowledgeable Disney travel agent, this could be fairly straightforward since they will handle all the bookings for you. But if you are doing this yourself, it's no secret that planning a Disney trip requires a little bit of a learning curve. And maybe we're downplaying that a bit because it takes time and effort to really be proficient at planning a Disney trip. So juggling 2 or more resort reservations and applying discounts when you can be a little bit cumbersome. Whereas when you make one reservation, that's all you have to worry about, so it's a lot easier. But like anything else, a little bit of planning and research can go a very long way, so as long as you do your due diligence, you can book your split stay no problem. Don't let that deter you if that is something that you would really like to do.
Yeah, agreed 100%. All right, next up, we alluded to this already, but let's cover exactly how you pull off the transfer between resorts. So if you're going from one Disney resort to another, it's actually really easy using Bell Services, which is completely free to use. So when you've got your suitcases and bags all packed up, take them to Bell Services near your resort's lobby. They're open 24/7, so even if it's super early in the morning, someone will be there. You'll leave your bags with them and tell them where you're going to next. Generally speaking, your bags are going to arrive at your next resort somewhere between 1 and 7 p.m. They will take your suitcases, backpacks, strollers, pretty much anything except for fresh groceries. Then you go on about your day and pick up your bags at your next resort later in the day. That's one option and probably the easiest in terms of effort that it requires from you.
Yeah, and another option is to do the transfer yourself. So once you're all packed up and ready to go, you can hail an Uber, Lyft, or a minivan and physically take your bags to your next resort. Reminder that at Disney, checkout is 11 a.m. and then check-in is generally not before 3 p.m. So you will have to wait or check your bags with Bell Services at your next resort when you get there. Plus, you'll have to pay the cost of the rideshare as well. So that's something to keep in mind there. Another option that's also free that will only work if your resorts are physically close to each other, but you could walk your bags over to the next resort. So, for example, if you were moving from Port Orleans Riverside to French Quarter, you could feasibly do this. Or from Beach Club to Boardwalk Inn over in the Epcot area resorts, you can also do that.
Yeah, exactly. I did exactly this on my last trip. So I walked my suitcase and backpack from Art of Animation to Pop Century, which is right across from Hourglass Lake. They actually share that Skyliner station, right? So it was maybe like a 5-minute walk.
Oh, that was definitely the logical
Yeah, exactly.
one.
So early morning, I dropped my bags off with Bell Services and went about my day. So you've got different options depending on where you're coming from and where you're going and what you've got planned for your day. One small piece of advice we will give is if you have a rest day or a relaxed day or a Disney Springs day, whatever you want to call it, putting your transfer day on that day makes sense. Okay, so you could transfer your bags, head into Disney Springs for lunch, do some shopping, head back mid-afternoon, check in, set up in your new room, go for a swim, have dinner at the resort or a nearby resort, depending on where you are, right? That sounds like a nice day.
Yeah, it does sound like a nice day.
You can, if you wanted to, you can still do a full or partial park day, but we probably wouldn't recommend doing like rope drop to fireworks on that day, only to come back to your new resort exhausted and have to grab your bags and get set up in your room when all you want to do is shower and crash, right? So plus you won't even get to explore your new digs. So again, it's just something to keep in mind there in terms of what you're doing on your transfer day.
I 100% agree with that. And another thing too is if the idea of split stays sounds overwhelming, but it's appealing enough that it's something that you do want to take on, limit it to just 2 resorts and then spend at least 2 to 3 nights at each resort. That way, you'll at least get to settle in a little bit at both resorts. And on the same vein, we'd probably avoid split stays on shorter trips. So basically anything less than 5 nights.
Yeah, exactly. Agreed. To give you a concrete example, on my most recent solo trip, I did 2 nights at Art of Animation, 2 nights at Pop Century, and then 3 nights at Port Orleans Riverside. That was fine because it was just me, right? So I didn't have to worry about packing up the kids or anything like that. But I will say that I wouldn't do 3 resorts in one trip when we go down as a family because moving the kids around that much does not sound appealing whatsoever. Knowing us, it's just not something we'd want to do, right? Having said that, we usually go down for at least 7 nights, sometimes 8. So to do like 3 and 4 or 4 and 4 or something like that, it wouldn't be bad at all. And it could definitely be worth it depending on what you kind of have planned.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll wrap things up with who should consider a split stay. Split stays, in our opinion, are best for guests who have been to Walt Disney World a few times and are just looking for a little bit more variety with their experiences. Again, pulling from our progression in terms of how we've structured our trips over the years, the first time we went to Disney, we stayed at one resort and one resort only. But every now and again, we like to throw in a split stay just because we get to experience more than one resort in one stay. And it's more of an in-depth experience than just visiting the resort to dine there, which we really appreciate. And you might as well. They're also great for guests who are wanting the best of both worlds. So the lower cost of a value and moderate resort, but then also to experience staying in those deluxe accommodations. Splitting a stay between a less expensive resort and then moving up to a deluxe is a really great way of experiencing both without breaking the bank. Like I said, though, remember, always end on the deluxe.
Yes, end on deluxe, yes.
This is something that many guests do, and it's a really, really great strategy.
Yeah, agreed 100%. And it's also great for guests who love resort hopping, right? So some people really enjoy visiting the resorts and exploring what they have to offer. So staying at 2 or more resorts during your vacation is a great way to experience the different dining and recreation activities that the different resorts have, right? Some people are cool with one place and setting up camp, and that's great. And others are kind of more nomadic and they want to move around, and that's great too, right? Whatever works for you and your family.
I find especially like at Christmas time, because the resorts are all so beautifully decorated. Agreed. That's a great time to do a split 100%.
Stay. If we
going
could suggest,
from like a moderate value and then up to a deluxe.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Especially Wilderness Lodge and Animal Kingdom Lodge with those two big lobbies and the massive trees in there.
Those are a good way to end your trip.
100%. Yep. We definitely recommend those. And then who should maybe avoid split stays? So if you hate packing and unpacking, right, you're going to want to avoid split stays because you can't get around that. And we understand that sentiment, right? It's certainly not our favorite thing to do either. So if you have an aversion to that, we totally get it. If you're traveling with young kids or if you have a lot of luggage, it can be seriously cumbersome to the point where it's just not worth it. You know, if you've got strollers, pack and plays, cribs, that's a lot to move, right? Also, if you're coming from far away and you're doing a week or more in the area and you're mixing your time between like Universal and Disney, for example, you might already be moving resorts to experience both Universal and Disney. So the thought of moving again while at Disney might not make sense, right?
Agreed.
Or it might not be appealing. Yeah. And on that note, maybe you're only in town for a short stay and you're only there for 3 or 4 nights. Again, in that scenario, you probably want to maximize your time in the parks as much as possible. So spending time handling the transfers from resort to resort might be a block of time you just don't want to lose, right? In like handling the logistics of actually like swapping resorts.
Agreed. Yeah. So with all of that said, do we think that split stays are worth it? Absolutely. Under the right circumstances, it can really add to your Walt Disney World resort experience as a whole. If this is your first trip, or if you're only in town for like a long weekend, we can't say we'd actually prioritize a split stay, but anything beyond that, especially if you're there for a longer trip, like a week-long stay, for example, it's definitely a great way to experience more while you're there. Like I'm thinking like people that are coming from Europe or whatever, usually they come for almost a month from what I've seen. That would definitely be a great occasion to do a split stay.
Yeah, for sure. If you're staying like 2 weeks, absolutely. It could be definitely worth it to see some different things. So with that said, thank you for joining us today to talk split stays. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And as always, if you could leave us a rating and review, it would be greatly appreciated. If you choose to do so, you can do that right on Apple Podcasts. And for Spotify, you can leave a rating.
You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at Let's Go.to-Disney, as well as on our Facebook page, Let's Go to Disney. We share some helpful reels here, as well as some fun ones. The link tree in our show notes will take you to all of our socials.
Have a great day, and we'll see you real soon.